Ah, Devil May Cry, a legendary gaming franchise loved by many, including myself. Having me screaming jackpot and performing moonwalks only after playing one game, truly cementing itself as my favorite video game in my early teens. And with the second season of the anime right around the corner, I decided to revisit this legendary game franchise. However, I already have all the weapons unlocked from my previous playthrough, so I decided to play on hard difficulty this time. So having said that, let's jump into the game where it all started.
2 millenniums ago, there was a war between the human world and the other, the underworld. But somebody from the underworld woke up to justice and stood up against this legion alone. His name was Sparta. Later, he quietly reigned the human world and continued to preserve harmony until his death. He became a legend, the legendary Dark Knight, Sparta.
We start the game chilling in our shop when a blonde woman crashes her bike through our door and immediately rejects all advances of raising her up by causing our first death.
Time to go to work, guys.
Dante, showing us he's him, pulls out his gun to empty him early. However, the woman, also known as Trish, tells us that the Demon King Munus is about to open a portal to the human world on Malay Island. And, since Trish looks like our late mother, we couldn't refuse. Thus, our adventure begins. As I make my way through the castle, let me explain what our goal in Devil May Cry 1 is. My goal is to try to get all blue and purple orbs, which means we also need to complete all secret missions. With that in mind, we make our way to the first boss, where I die. Again, and again. So, my dumbass didn't save the game. And in Devil May Cry 1, if you die, you must start from the last save, which in this case is the beginning. Starting from the very beginning, again, I die once in mission 2 and beat the boss in 2 tries. After doing some secret missions and clutching up Neo Angelo, which I totally have footage of by the way, I make my way to the sewers, where I fight the most annoying enemies in the entire game, back to back. I specifically had a lot of trouble with these ice enemies that I only figured out how to deal with later, so for now I was getting my ass backed up. But I lucked out on a run, only to then follow with the most embarrassing death this entire video. But moving on from that embarrassing display, I tried to complete this mission several times where I die a couple of times, and then we have to defeat the exact same spider boss again, which I managed to do in about 2 tries. Moving on to mission 9, this should have been an easy time since I already have the weapon needed to progress. Alas, I didn't notice, causing me to struggle against the boss, which was in fact so difficult, my controller just decided to quit, causing me another death. 3rd time is the charm because we finally put this bird brain to rest to then move on to the next mission, only to then get absolutely railed by Shadow. Now you might be wondering who that is. Shadow is a demon we will come across throughout the game, and on hard difficulty there will be an extra shadow in every encounter. Meaning that if we in normal difficulty had to fight 1 shadow, in hard difficulty we have to fight 2 of them. Continuing our journey, we beat Neo Angelo in 2 attempts and move on to the game's underwater section. After defeating Griffith, clearing secret missions, getting bitched by Shadow, and defeating Griffith for the final time, Trish informs us that Munus is back in the castle, where, after making our way back inside, we fight Nightmare for the first time. Now we get to mission 17, which was so hard I died by far the most times of any mission so far. This is because we must complete 2 hard fights without dying. The first one being these ice enemies that I absolutely hate.
Fatality.
And the second one being the third fight of Nino Angelo, which is revealed to be our brother Virgil, which will be very important later in the story. I also died from these enemies that can steal your devil trigger and from my lack of rhythm. Still, after defeating Neo Angelo, I enjoy a moment of peace, as with this, we now own the legendary Devil Sword Sparta. But the pain doesn't end here, as after this fuckfest of a mission, we fight Nightmare for the 3rd time, which was so damn difficult. I died multiple times, almost breaking my controller. Still, we managed to come out on top even with Trish betraying us, but we only show mercy because Dante respects women, as you should. Making our way to confront Mundus, although barely, we find him hiding in a statue, where he tries to end the game early by using a sneak attack. However, Trish ends up taking the hit for us. Telling him to get his bitch ass out, we start the final boss battle. Mundus is actually the only fight in the game that has 2 phases. This first phase, which is this flying section, that is pretty easily beat because we can just use Devil Trigger to do massive amounts of damage. And the second phase is just an ordinary parkour slice and dice with the Devil Sword Sparta. And after perishing a couple of times, I used the Devil Sword Sparta and all the items I have gathered over my adventure to end Mundus once and for all. Grieving over Trish's death, we have the worst voice crack in voice acting history.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
Where we leave the Devil Sword Sparta and our amulet with Trish to rest. However, the island randomly just explodes or starts to collapse in on itself. I have no clue what's happening, so we have to make our way out of here. Unfortunately for us, as we are about to make our exit, the floor collapses and Mundus appears for one final time. After a long battle, it seems to be all lost. However, Trish, magically revived by the Sparta, gives us her power, which we use to blick Mundus one last time.
It looks like we have a winner.
Jackpot!
Thinking we're all gonna die, a plane magically appears, which we use to escape the exploding island, concluding our journey with a whopping 52 deaths in total. Quite a number for our first adventure. Not bad indeed. However, I was already dreading the experience that was waiting for me, if I actually played it. I know, YouTuber lies to you, but real talk, apparently you need to beat the game like 3 separate times before you can even do hard mode. So I had to beat the game on Dante, then beat the game on another character who I forgot the name of, and then I could do hard mode. And quite frankly, if I did that, then this video wouldn't be here, so I just decided to skip it. So let's just all pretend I hit this saucy ass pose, shoot him in the face, and beat the game with 0 deaths because I'm that good. Alright? Now let's jump on our motorcycle and actually proceed to peak. This time we start off the game absolutely showing off and then immediately telling the government to go fuck themselves. Indulging ourselves in an absolutely scrumptious meal, the average British man comes in telling us that our brother has invited us for his birthday party, which we immediately respond with by doing a backflip. Dante, continuing eating his absolutely healthy meal, immediately gets jumped by multiple demons. Unfortunately for them, they were dead man walking. Dante, completely unbothered and very excited about his brother's birthday party, declares for all to hear.
This party's getting crazy. Let's rock.
Now, playing the proper music, we look over at our future walking, talking punching bag as we are about to have some fun. In Devil May Cry 1, everything was pretty standard, but now it is all gas, no brakes. I did not call these guys our future punching bags for nothing, because these first 2 levels is pretty much giving a kid candy for the first time. So as I'm absolutely making light work of these demons, let me explain what our goal for this game is. Not only is it the same as in Devil May Cry 1, where we're gonna try and get all blue orbs and all purple orbs, which means we have to do all secret missions, but in this game, I'm also gonna try and learn the actual mechanics of the game. I have only done 1 playthrough of Devil May Cry 3, so to say that I didn't have everything unlocked and everything learned is an understatement. And believe me, after recording this and during recording this, there is like a shit ton to learn, and I will not go over it all in this video. But in this playthrough, I tried my best to go over as much of it. And the first step was to level up a different style. In Devil May Cry 3, the styles where Dante is known for get introduced. Trickster, Swordsman, Gunslinger, and Royal Guard. I already leveled up Trickster fully in my first playthrough, so I'll be leveling Swordsman in this playthrough. Although I start out with Royal Guard currently, I will soon switch to Swordsman and stay on Swordsman for the rest of this playthrough, only allowing myself to go back to Trickster if it's absolutely necessary for completing secret missions, or if I've already upgraded Swordsman to level 2. Putting my coat on in quite stylish fashion, I make quick work of the first boss and make my way through mission 3, where I kill some enemies, complete our first secret mission, and we fight the first real boss, Cerberus, a demon dog with 3 heads that guards the gate, which, although it was a very close fight, we back up without dying a single time. After we back up this little doggo, a mysterious lady rams right through the window and immediately greets us by shooting a rocket at us. We serve on the rocket for absolutely no reason, just to show off, and say to her that she should keep her rockets to herself. Leaving as quick as she appeared, we make our way through the tower, where after mostly fighting and solving some minor puzzles, and getting lost a few times, I make my way to the second boss, which is this massive centipede thing, which, to be honest, is by far the worst boss in Devil May Cry 3. Maybe even in the entire series. This thing sucks. After dealing with that massive tapeworm, we go to the door, but as we're trying to leave, the door doesn't open. Dante, immediately resorting to violence, tries to shoot the door down, but this clown tells us that we have to use something else, which turns out to be violence. Yeah, I don't know what the point of that was, but Dante has the same idea as I do and immediately tries to blick him, which he unfortunately dodges. 2 steps later, however, we do get to shoot him in his face, as this is one of 3 fights we need to complete to get an achievement. Not necessary to beat the game, but it's fun to shoot this clown guy. Getting back to it, we solve some more puzzles and attempt our second secret mission, where I fail miserably. And then I realize that I've already completed this secret mission somehow, so I just skip it and never come back to it. Making our way further up, we find the second boss, where these 2 just keep yapping and yapping when Dante wants to go through. Of course they don't let us and we have to fight to the death, where unfortunately I get jumped and meet my very first demise. However, thanks to a good strategy of jumping over their heads, I'm able to beat them on my second attempt. After beating the 2 loonies, we finally get Swordsman level 2, which is a very big milestone, as now we have 2 separate moves for every single one of our 5 different weapons. And it is definitely the turning point where I start to understand Dante's gameplay and moveset way more than I ever did. On the way to mission 6, we have to solve 2 out of the 3 paths to open the door. I, thinking I'm him, immediately go for the combat path. However, I severely underestimated on what difficulty I was on and get my cheeks brutally clapped. Going on to the second chamber, which is a riddle, I am ashamed to admit that my brain must have been completely off, because I just brute forced this riddle, getting every single wrong answer only after the fact, realizing that the combination is about human life. From the young crawling infant to the man standing tall, and finally to the old man leaning in his chair. That is the riddle I have to solve. And I was thinking about this way too much because I thought it was in order of 1, 2, and 3, you know how age gaps works. But it's actually the order on how many limbs they use to move around. Like, think about it, bro. 4, 2, 3. That is it. And I could not figure this out for the life of me. The last chamber, luckily not being as mentally difficult, we just have to succeed in this obstacle course. Very easy, right? After completing the mission, we see the mysterious lady confront the old British man from earlier, to only get psyched out, get a book falling on her head, and then plummet to her death. As the mysterious lady is falling, we just so happen to walk by and catch her mid-fall. Surely, she must be grateful and... Or maybe not. This is why I never talk to women and stay inside and play Devil May Cry. After that fiasco of rising up a baddie, we attempt our third secret mission where we have to stay in the air for 20 seconds. Now, I am not good at using enemy stab, which is an essential skill later down the line that I at this point haven't learned yet. So I opted to cheese it by standing in the doorway and then jumping on the enemy's heads continuously. This almost works first try, but then for some reason I fall off and I have to do it all over again. 1/3 of a fucking second. I can only see this in the editing. So fast was it. Annoying jumping aside, we do succeed, beat up some enemies, and then we can finally go to the top, where our brother Virgil is waiting. Our brother, pissed off that we didn't bring a birthday present, immediately challenges us to Mortal Kombat. And after a long fought battle, we get stabbed in the gut twice, causing us to awaken our inner devil, only to faint right after. Continuing from this L, we jump off the building in hot pursuit of our brother, only to then get swallowed by this massive monster. Inside his gut, that is filled with demons for some reason, we run from our lives from another one of these centipedes looking things, and then cut his guts up, where we die from a laser beam. This thing makes no fucking sense. All silliness and jokes aside, I was able to beat the boss on my second try by understanding its gimmick. The left side taking all your orbs, including your red, green and white orbs, so that you cannot have any additional devil trigger or healing from all the enemies that you kill, and the right side being able to steal your devil trigger indefinitely, having to kill one of these to then attack the middle part to kill the boss. Successfully doing so instantly kills the massive whale, where it then cut open his eyes and finds the mysterious lady. Dante finally asks for her name, and she says that she doesn't have a name, so we call her Lady. Get it? Because I've been calling her Mysterious Lady when her name is Lady. I'm so funny. After slaying some demons and doing more of the same, we find this vampiric lady. Dante, being based, obviously rejects her, which starts the boss fight of this level, where I unfortunately die. On my second attempt, I fully channeled my fear of women, keeping my distance and firing with Ebony and Ivory until she died. This boss actually took quite a while because in her final phase she will try to come close and sap your HP to heal herself, which you have to run away from her when she does this, which is quite funny because I also run away from women IRL. My trauma of women and my terrible wrist aside, Dante shoots her in the stomach, showing us he's based one more time, and then we get the most useless weapon in the entire game. Meanwhile, in Virgil's POV, he stabs the bald British guy because he's British, saying that because he's bald, he's useless and he has everything he needs from him anyway, leaving the man to die. Dante, not knowing and unbothered by the old man's death, uses this orb as a football, scoring a goal straight from blue lock. And after this impressive display, we find the dead man, which is revealed to be Lady's father. Lady, grieving over her father's death, leaves us to continue with our own journey. Continuing with said journey, I immediately start up Secret Mission 7, which I try for 10 whole minutes. And if you think that isn't really that long, I spent 10 whole minutes doing the exact same thing over and over again, trying to do this parkour. I just locked out and used Devil Trigger to speed myself up to get the blue orb in the end. Making my way to a train track, we use it to find ourselves in front of the boss door. This is where we find a massive chimera looking demon. And let me tell you, I was absolutely dog shit during this fight. This was the moment in the game where I realized I should probably use Trickster during boss fights. As my dodging was so terrible, I got hit with every single one of his attacks, even if I knew the pattern perfectly. Not wanting to die, I use a healing item, which in this case I will be counting as a death, because I know I would have died for sure. Starting mission 12, this truly is a fight against time. As in the first section, we continuously lose health, but in exchange, we continuously are in the Devil Trigger state, allowing us to run faster and do more damage with our attack. Although even with all this power, I still managed to die on this annoying platforming section, spawning right on top of it, which I absolutely don't mind. Changing the direction of the bridge one more time, we fight this stupid clown and then make our way to the boss room where we have to fight this horse that can control time. A lot of time in this mission. Dying in a rather untimely fashion. Okay, that was not funny, I know. I get hit by this carriage and then move to the double stand, where I'm able to make a double copy of myself, immediately beating up the horse with no mercy. After we do so, Dante very conveniently gains the ability to stop time, which I will only use once throughout this entire playthrough. Although Dante is known for his 4 signature styles, in Devil May Cry 3 we have 2 more, Quicksilver and Doppelganger. Doppelganger allowing me to summon a copy of myself to do additional damage, and Quicksilver allowing me to stop time. However, unlike the other styles that need to be leveled, these don't need to be leveled, but they use your Devil Trigger, so they can only be used when you have Devil Trigger. With this, I use Quicksilver to complete Secret Mission 9 and then continue my way to our second Virgil fight. And let me tell you, this fight is way harder than our first fight, as in this fight he not only has an additional weapon, but will also use Devil Trigger, which allows him to regain his HP. After dying 2 times, on my 3rd attempt I learned his pattern and was able to kill him with relative ease. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the big reveal happens. The clown we have been bullying for the last couple of hours is actually the bald British man, aka Lady's dad, who gaslit us all in coming here so that he can activate the demon tower to gain the power of Sparta. Starting our last goose chase, we teleport to the bottom of the tower, where we use Lady's discarded motorcycle to drive up that bitch. Ignoring all laws of physics that Newton made, making him roll in his grave and cry about it, as we are just too stylish and cool to care. Mission 15 introduces us to the worst enemy in the entire game, being these angel enemies that can go through walls, and after defeating these awful enemies successfully, I immediately die from the same spiders again. How are they the same? Well, simple, because in this mission and the following one, we pretty much have to backtrack to the entire game, going through areas and rooms filled with the same enemies and puzzles we did last time, with the only difference being that all these rooms are now shuffled, making it so that the layout of this mission is absolutely confusing if you have to do secret missions, like me. Although some parts were easy, some parts were filled with annoying enemies and even more annoying puzzles, like my favorite chain and ball breaking puzzle, where we have to hit this ball and chain as many times as it takes before they break, sometimes by hitting it enough times, or sometimes by making 2 of them clash together. However, no amount of annoying platforming, puzzles and enemies would stop me from beating this game, which eventually brings me to this library, where Lady is waiting. Lady tells us that she cannot let the disrespect her father put her to slide, and demands us to stand back and watch as she handles the situation. Knowing that she will die, we tell her to get out of the way, thus starting one of the easiest, simplest boss fights in the Devil May Cry franchise, and you need to be absolute dog shit to die right here.
This nigga is trash!
Okay, maybe I underestimated Lady a little bit, but I figured out that close range combat is her downfall, thus giving us the W. Trying to raise her up but getting rejected, we take her rocket launcher as compensation and make our way to the final few missions. And this is where we're gonna take a little bit of a detour, because dear viewer, I technically lied to you. There is another way to get blue orbs, and that is weapon mastery. Pretty much there are these statues that you have to break by getting a certain style rank on a weapon. And in this case, I was really trying to get it, but I was failing for like half an hour straight. So I looked up more moves that I could combo together to get a higher style rank. And this is where I learned that Devil May Cry 3 has a secret move system. Pretty much if you press a button at a certain time or angle, you will perform a different move. Something I didn't know, because in the later Devil May Crys, you have to purchase all these moves. And although in this Devil May Cry, you also need to purchase moves, you pretty much just purchase the base move and then have to figure out the secret combos on your own. Something I unfortunately didn't realize way too late in the game. So my advice to you, dear viewer, is if you're ever gonna play a Devil May Cry game, please make sure to check your moveset regularly. You never know what useful moves, new combos, or anything you can find in this list. Having gained this knowledge, I absolutely popped off. Or not. My mediocrity aside, we make our way up to the tower one final time, where we find a strange shadowy door. After entering, we have to face the worst enemy in the game, myself, which, through my lack of health, I unfortunately kicked the bucket, which has nothing to do with my lack of skill or anything of the sort. Proven by my second attempt, because we are able to take down the boss with relative ease. Upon entering the demon realm, we immediately have to face off against the whole chessboard, which, after defeating, we finally gained swordsman level 3, maxing out our style and being able to use the best attack in the entire game. We make our way to the demon realm, which, after completing this parkour secret mission, we have successfully completed every single secret mission in Devil May Cry 3. The final part of this mission has us defeat all bosses we have defeated previously in a boss gauntlet, where after we defeat 3 bosses and dying twice in the process, we are allowed to move on. Mission 19 is essentially Inception, because it's just a maze where we have to fight enemies in a certain time, have to solve riddles mid-combat, and just go through the same portal to get somewhere else. Making our way to the gate where the final boss lies, I decided to be a little bit of a pussy, and instead of buying the final blue orb I could buy from the shop, I decided to buy heals. I know the challenge was to get as much blue orbs as possible, but believe me, I needed this. Confronting Lady's dad, who now rocks the appearance of Sparta, we tell him that this is the end of his evil scheme. When I saw Sparta, I thought I was gonna have a duel with the legendary Dark Knight himself, but instead, I was surely disappointed with this blob. I called the Centipede the worst boss in the game, but to be honest, this one is by far the worst, as it's just this massive blob flailing around, only then to leave where these slug creatures attack me that I can easily blow away with one shot using Lady's rocket launcher. Doing this on repeat for a while makes Dante tired, but luckily for us, Virgil comes in clutch and we have to face the boss together. Now, although a boss battle where Dante and Virgil fight together is very cool, unfortunately, gameplay wise, this boss went from bad to worse. During this fight, Virgil is controllable using the style button, which means we are unable to use our unique style. May that be swordsman, gunslinger, trickster, you name it, you are unable to use it. Like, I'm not kidding, you'll be way better off just equipping Ebony and Ivory and shooting, because the X button will also control Virgil, and he will just slash the boss to death. Eventually, we are able to beat the boss, and with Dante's and Virgil's combined might, we lay the British man to rest.
Jackpot.
Even with the big bad gone, it was still Virgil's special day, and he demanded a proper gift. So Dante gives him the best gifts a brother could give. Some good old tough love. Thus we start the third and final fight with Virgil. And now let me tell you, viewer, this is exactly why I bought all those heals. Because this fight is absolutely ridiculously hard. Till this day, I still have no clue how to actually beat it without just having to out-tank it. The first phase is very similar to the first and second fight. You simply learn his attack pattern and counter when he's done. However, when he is about halfway through his health bar, he pretty much starts to block every single attack you throw his way, and start dodging out of combos way faster, meaning that the amount of damage we can do becomes way less. He also uses Devil Trigger a lot more, and dealing damage with him in Devil Trigger is not an option, since in this state, Virgil cannot be stunned at all, meaning that you might as well just be a punching bag for him at this point. He's way faster, more aggressive, and has an entirely new moveset because he can use the forecheck. Still, in the end, I was able to beat him, but I did use 4 heals and I would have 100% died without those heals, so I decided to count it as a +4, potentially. I didn't die, but I would have died without them. Wrapping up this fight, we slash our brother right down the middle as we ask him to come home with us. Alas, Virgil thinks he's better off in the demon world just like the father, and so he gives up the forecheck and slashes our hand one final time as he descends into the demon realm. Not having much time, escapes from the demon realm, meets up with Lady, and gives back her rocket launcher. With the last remnants of demons appearing, we successfully beat Devil May Cry 3 with 16 deaths, 21 if we count all the heals. However, we are only halfway through the series as we now get to move on to the next game on our list. After that beautiful performance from our love interest Kyrie, we sit down and realize that we now start the game as Nero. Nero, however, is a bit more hot-headed than Dante, Standing up to leave because he doesn't really feel all of this religious stuff, he gets up, but as he's about to leave, Dante comes flying in, our farming as he does so, and shoots this guy. Yes, your eyes do not deceive you. Dante, the hero we all know and love, commits murder right then and there, and absolutely bodies the rest of the Order of the Sword. An order Nero himself is part of. While Dante is doing this, everybody is trying to escape. However, Kyrie trips over invisible air and Dante conveniently stands over her. Not even doing anything, Nero gets enraged and kicks Dante so hard he goes flying into the statue, initiating the standoff of the century. After Nero tells Kyrie and Kratos to get out of here, he immediately attacks Dante for round 2, starting the first mission of the game. What can I say? What a way to open the game, starting as a new character and then having to face off against the main character of the Devil May Cry series. Fortunately for us, this version of Dante is a tutorial and really doesn't do anything, allowing us to use the basic moves of Nero's kit. However, after the tutorial is done, my luck ran out and we have to fight Dante for real. However, Dante is still holding back, so I was able to defeat them with relative ease, although I still almost died, which wasn't a good sign for what was about to come. After the fight is over, we impale Dante with his own sword, which he is unbothered by at all, causing him to leave, leaving us with more questions than answers. Kratos tells us that we need to follow him, and we get our main weapon from Kyrie, the Red Queen. Going outside, we see that the city is overrun by demons, which is a perfect time to explain what Nero's kit is actually all about. Nero, unlike Dante, has 3 main weapons: the Red Queen, the Blue Rose, and his right arm, the Devil Breaker. The Red Queen allows us to do melee attacks. However, unlike Dante, who has the swordsman style to get more powerful attacks, Nero has Exceed. Exceed allows us to rev up our sword, doing fire damage in the process when fully charged. There are 3 levels to this: level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 doing a little bit of fire damage, and level 3 even allowing us to do different moves to our already existing ones. Blue Rose is a double-barreled revolver that we can charge up for massive amounts of damage that we will mostly use against bosses and to combo enemies. And our right arm, the Devil Breaker, allows us to grab enemies and do brutal combo finishers. It even works on bosses when they're stunned, allowing us to do massive damage, and this is definitely the main part of Nero's kit. Making our way through the city, we find this massive fire demon where, after doing the cleanest parry I've ever seen, we initiate in combat, starting the first boss fight. Now this boss is very easy because each time he destroys a building, we actually get healing, meaning that even if we get hit, we'll most likely heal more HP than that we lose from it. His fire attacks are pretty predictable and pretty fast, but I was pretty ass at dodging them, I won't lie. Still, we managed to beat him as he's the first boss and he retreats like a bitch. Going into mission 3, I find 2 blue orbs after some intense parkouring. Like really, how the fuck are you supposed to find this shit? And then I make my way towards this ice mansion, where we find this strange lady, which is absolutely not relevant to the plot at all. Going inside the castle, it is clear as day that I have to solve some sort of puzzle to move on. However, I am dumb and I see this fireball puzzle. Now, in the last game, we had to do a puzzle and we have to parry them. So I thought to myself, it is the same thing. I do it and I die, realizing that it didn't work at all. Yeah, our first death came from a puzzle that I wasn't even meant to solve in this mission yet. My own stupidity aside, I find myself in this library where we find this knight enemy for the first time. Now this enemy has a shield, meaning that it can block our attacks and will actually counter us, causing massive amounts of damage. Now I don't know the most effective way to deal with it, but the way I dealt with them was attack, dodge their counter, attack from their back or their sides, and then use the Devil Bringer to instantly annihilate them. After dealing with them, I gained the power to move the saw blade things to destroy these obstacles, finally being able to solve the fireball puzzle safely, doing a secret mission, and making my way towards the boss. This time, the boss appears to be two loving ladies. However, Nero has a girlfriend at home waiting for him already, so he isn't interested. This was the right decision because these two girls are attached to this massive toad who tries to eat us. The second boss fight of the game is even easier than the last one, as this frog has pretty much no moves that are really harmful or not telegraphed. They're pretty easy to dodge, and even if you get hit with this grab attack, you can easily use Devil Trigger to just get out of it and not have any consequences. After defeating the boss, 100 more are about to come out, but Nero doesn't really feel like farming bosses, so he closes the gate instantly. Moving on, we try this absolutely annoying secret mission where we have to raise our style rank without doing damage. Which means we have to either dodge perfectly or do taunts to increase our style rank. And this is fucking hard. Like, this was undoable. I had to come back, heal, and go back in on multiple occasions. I even died during it. But eventually, through a strategy I found online, I was able to clear the secret mission, although it was not easy. After doing one of my least favorite secret missions of all time, we have to face one of my least favorite enemies of all time. These fuck-ass shark things that come out of the ground. These enemies are simple in theory, you just shoot them and then they come out of the ground, allowing you to hit them. However, in practice, this is easier said than done. Because I hate these things, everyone hates these things, their hitbox are wanky, they go into the ground every moment they get, they hit you from off screen. I absolutely hate them. Our pain and misery are not over because we now have to play this game with a 6-sided die where we have to move a statue of Nero across this board, getting a different result on each tile. However, I was lucky and hit the jackpot. After that intense stroke of luck that I'm sure will last throughout the entire game, I make my way to our next boss. Now in this fight, we have to face this scientist guy. But not really, because he stands behind this glass, electric glass, I don't really know what it is. And you have to break it to beat this boss. Now, this boss is super easy. This is one of the easiest bosses in the entire game. Like, it's insane how easy this boss is, and there is no way I should die right here. Okay, but surely I won't die again. Oh. So yeah, I think I had a little bit of an off day, which you know happens to the best of us, but eventually we beat him, only for him to cheat again by impaling us to the wall and eventually impaling us. Fortunately for us, the Yamato responds with our need for power and resurrects us at the last moment, which is absolutely not relevant to the story at all. Making his great escape, we faint only to wake up to an empty laboratory, allowing us to move on from this precarious situation. On our way to freedom, however, we unfortunately get taken down by these knights because there were just too many of them. On my second attempt to this area, I managed to break free, go over the bridge, and then get to this massive jungle area, where Dante says the most iconic line of this entire game.
What the hell is this?
Meanwhile, in the bad guy's headquarters. I'm evil, but I'm alive. And evil. Get the punk Nero right now. I need his right arm to jerk it with. My right arm is not what it used to be. I cannot jerk it on my own. Because I'm evil and all. Yes, your sire. When the seasons change, so should your clothes. And since Nero is very stylish, he puts on a new set of clothes, which is completely canonical and important to the story. Our new drip giving us a power boost, we make our way through this forest where we easily dispatch of these new parasite type enemies, which will latch on to other enemies and sporadically deal damage to interrupt our combos. which is absolutely not annoying at all, and I love these enemies very, very much. Moving on, we almost get chased to death by this snake-looking demon, who we get to fight not only 2 minutes later. Facing the snake demon, we try to end the fight in one blow. However, unfortunately for us, we get hit by one of her eggs. However, this turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because the only thing I need to say about this fight is that I absolutely popped off. With me in the gamer position, I easily take care of this boss and gain the ability to burn these roots, which allows me to go to headquarters, where we find our mentor Kratos waiting for us. And now we get through my favorite boss in the entire game. Like, this boss is so fucking good. It is just a sheer sword and shield test of strength. He blocks your attacks, you have to find a way around it, counter, parry, and it's just amazing. I know there is way more you can do in this fight, however, I unfortunately didn't. But for now, I beat him on my first attempt, although barely, and unfortunately for us, Kyrie sees this, thinking we're trying to murk her brother, because yes, they are related. The scientist guy comes in, gaslighting Kyrie, and then kidnapping her. Putting our differences aside, me and Kratos are gonna work together to save Kyrie. Making our way through mission 9, we fight all kinds of enemies and then make it to the top, where our captured Kyrie is waiting patiently for us. Unfortunately, the scientist guy, now in his demon form, was also waiting for us. Being reunited with our lover in such a way pisses Nero the fuck up, and we beat up this man in brutal fashion. I mean it, we really beat him up in brutal fashion. This is just absolutely diabolical how Nero does him right here. After the scientist fails, the evil Pope controlling his suit of armor kidnaps Kyrie again. Unfortunately for us, we get jumped and stopped, preventing us from saving Kyrie. Now, I don't know if Nero is dumb or was just taken by his emotions, but he has a grappling hook. He has an ability to grab enemies from a distance, which is something that he didn't use to grab onto the knight or Kyrie, which is kinda whack, but you know, sure Nero, I guess you don't love her that much. This realization absolutely sends Nero over the edge, making him rage out and punch the ground so hard he destroys this demon brute, which allows us to move on. Making our way back, we stop time and absolutely body these enemies. Like, this was absolutely so much fun, and I wish you could do this more often. Going over the bridge and then making my way through Dante. Dante tells Nero that he needs the Yamato back because it's a very important family heirloom. However, Nero needs the Yamato to save Kyrie and tells Dante to go fuck right off. Unfortunately for both Nero and me, Dante cannot let that slide and engages us in a brutal boss battle. Let me tell you, viewer, this is by far the hardest fight in this entire game. This is because Dante can use every single move you can use with him in the game during this boss battle. Fortunately for us, he can only use Rebellion and his 2 guns that he has on him, because he canonically doesn't have the other weapons you'll get throughout Devil May Cry 4, which honestly is a blessing in disguise, because I would be cooked if he could. However, that doesn't mean he is a walk in the park, because he's very fast, aggressive, and can switch towards his 4 styles, which give him 4 different abilities based on which style he's in. This paired with me not knowing what to do causes me to get brutally comboed into oblivion. And the belt to ass was not done, as I had to heal multiple times, as I didn't want to die because I was on a pretty good run. After all of that, I am luckily able to defeat Dante by sheer luck alone and nothing else, and after that, he still beats our ass. After Dante sees our relative strength, he tells us to handle the situation, because if we fuck up, he can always save the day. After this, our objective is very simple. Make it to the top of the statue and save Kyrie. Now, this is easier said than done, because I am dumb, as you guys may know from watching this video until so far. Not only do I get lost on multiple occasions, not being able to solve any form of puzzle, but I also decide to engage into this infinite enemy spawner, where I eventually die because I thought to myself, I'm able to get a heal and then get my shit rocked by these 2 knights. Eventually I'll make it to the top, where this old ass motherfucker is waiting for me. And this boss battle is the worst one in the game. Like, I hate this dude. It is so fucking infuriating and it took so long. Pretty much this boss, what you have to do is you have to break his shield, then get close and then knock him out of the air to beat his old ass. Unfortunately, this is a massive stage and he can run away fast, meaning that for most of the time you will be unable to make it, meaning that you have to do the whole thing over and over and over again until you get it. Like, just look at this shit. I was actually about to crash out and just decided to heal because I was not doing all of this again when he had such a sliver of HP left. After all of this running away, I was able to do the most satisfying buster animation I have done in a while. Unfortunately for me, he uses Kyrie as a human shield and then is able to capture us, stealing the Yamato and killing Kratos in the process. After this, Dante tells us to get our ass up, but we are truly spent and we tell him to go fuck himself, giving him the classic middle finger. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we finally get to play with my goat, Dante. Oh my god, I've been waiting for this moment. But I have been playing Nero for quite a while at this point, so my Dante gameplay is rusty, to say the least. Although we are familiar with Dante at this point, his playstyle in DMC4 is very different than his playstyle in DMC3. For example, we are now allowed to style switch, which means we can now use our 4 primary styles all at the same time and switch between them whenever we want freely. He also has a different arsenal from before, which means I already have unlocked every single melee weapon and gun accessible for him. However, these weapons are useless. Okay, they're not useless. They have a very specific use, which means that in this single playthrough I won't be able to figure out on my own at the very least what these uses exactly are. Knowing this, I decided to just stay to Rebellion and edanVA and focus on style switching mostly. This is just my personal opinion. I won't say that the game is made for Nero because I know that is a very big complaint, but I already knew that DMC for Dante was a bit hard to play, so I decided to just focus on the basics. And getting back to it, Dante's kit consists of 5 styles, 3 melee weapons and 3 guns. The 5 styles being your 4 basic ones and Dark Slayer, which we get from obtaining the Yamato. Our melee weapons are, of course, Rebellion, Gilgamesh and Lucifer. Rebellion being my main sword we all know and love, Gilgamesh being the punch and kick weapon, and Lucifer being this weapon that allows us to do a lot of things, which I cannot get into. It is a beast to learn, so I mostly didn't use it unfortunately, even though I tried. Our guns consist of edanVA, our very trusty shotgun, and this rocket launcher known as Pandora. However, unfortunately Pandora will also be useless because for all the other abilities from Pandora's box, you need to charge up this bar in the middle, which can take forever. It takes multiple fights to use one ability fully, so I also didn't use this weapon much throughout the game. Knowing all of this, we make our way outside the building before it fucking explodes and then continue with the game. And now you will think we're probably gonna explore some new areas, fight against new bosses, but we won't. Dante's section is pretty much Nero's section in reverse, but instead of being the normal section, it is The place is cursed because of a monster, which is the boss. Beat the boss and then make your way out of the section as fast as humanly possible. So, to save time, because this video is already long enough as if, we, in order, beat the snake demon, gain Gilgamesh, go to the ice mansion, beat the frog, get Pandora, escape the lab, gain Lucifer and make our way back to the church. Going inside the church, we put on an absolutely beautiful performance even Kyrie would be jealous of. Like, this would actually make money, and I would pay a lot of money to see this IRL.
That is what you think. And that is why I wait in your power.
You will fumble the proposition of my quest. Though I encourage for an opportunity to battle a being of such grand delusion as you is a sweet fortune.
Starting the boss fight right after, we beat the scientist guy for one last time and explain how plot armor works before putting a bullet in his brain. Retrieving the Yamato and showing off in our brother's honor, we make our way to the top of the building and confront the Savior. Now the Savior, in my opinion, is a pretty fun boss in theory, but not really in practice. In short, what you have to do is you have to jump between these multiple platforms and then break these blue orbs to eventually kill him. Unfortunately for us, this is super annoying to do. Just because he doesn't do the attacks you want, sometimes you need an orb on his leg, which means he has to kick, and he always doesn't kick with the same leg or always doesn't hit you with the same arm, or you need one on his head or chest and he won't fly by with his head, meaning that this can get very tedious very quick. But I shoot him down after a very long time and then try to wake Nero up by doing the coolest shit I have ever seen. Like, just look at this. Oh, that is so clean. Shooting the Yamato in like that, oh my god. This shit was so saucy. Nero actually wakes up from his depression nap and makes his way through the Savior to save Kyrie. That is a lot of save in one sentence. Mission 19 can only be described as a living hell. We had to play this board game again, but unfortunately my luck ran out. Because I hit every single red tile there was. And to make it even worse, I had to fight so many times. I pretty much took chip damage and made it with half HP towards the boss, that I would die from the boss there. The bosses themselves weren't particularly difficult. What was difficult is that I made it with about like half HP, causing me to die on a couple of occasions. But eventually, after I don't know how many minutes, I make it through this mission and finally confront the Pope one last time. Now, the Pope boss fight isn't particularly different from before. You simply have to come close, break the shield, and then beat his ass. Unfortunately, the last part of this fight is different, as you have to counter him with your Devil Breaker. This is never explained in the game, and you don't have to do this any other time except during this fight and the very end. So I completely forgot about this and died. Twice. Resetting the mission, I'm able to get the timing down and beat the Pope once and for all, saving Kyrie in the process and defeating the Savior itself. Retrieving the Devil Sword Sparta and saving Kyrie, the Savior gets up, now fused with the Pope. Dante, wanting to end this, goes over to finish it, but we tell him that we can do this on our own. This is pretty simple. You simply have to parry the Pope 3 different times with your Devil Breaker. And this was totally not difficult at all, and I absolutely did not have to use my Devil Trigger to regain HP because I was about to die. After doing this, we violently crush his head with our right arm and finally enjoy a sweet moment with our loving wife-to-be. Or not. And with that, I end the game with 19 deaths under my belt, 27 if we add all the heals. Now, although I skipped over it, I did gain a solid understanding of Dante's base moves, which was something I was going to need in our last and final game. We start the game with Dante struggling to fight against the demon for the first time in a long time. However, we don't have to miss Nero for long as he's right behind with a mysterious individual known as V, thanks to the handy dandy title card. V is the one to inform us that this is the demon who took Nero's right arm and gained a great deal of power from it. I'm gonna address the elephant in the room right now so that I don't have to for the rest of the game. Nero actually has his right arm back already because I beat the game. That is because during the end of the game, he gets his devil trigger, regenerates his arm and beats Virgil's ass. However, this is the beginning of the game, so Nero will complain and bitch about his missing arm and use the devil breaker. Now Nero's kit has changed from 4 to 5, but the biggest change that they added was the devil breaker. 8 unique different robotic arms that all have their own unique individual ability. They can be charged up to unleash an even bigger ability, and I will slowly introduce them the more I use them. For now, all you need to know that I like to use this kit right here. Except for the change with the metal arms, Nero plays exactly the same. However, I did decide for the first time to change Nero's controls from the shooting button being on X, being on the Xbox controller, to right trigger. This is because it will be easier to do a charge shot while doing combos and pressing other buttons. So I will die a couple of times because of this. However, later I make this my own and truly become a Nero pro. Sorta. Just like with the other games, our goal is to get all blue and purple orbs. So we have to complete all the secret missions, or try to, once again. However, this is significantly easier because now we actually have a secret mission menu. Meaning that once we find the secret mission, we don't have to complete it right then and there. Now that we are all up to speed, I make my way to the demon's chamber where Dante gets his ass kicked. Nero, thinking he's him, fights the demon known as Urizen, and I die.
Big dog, you're supposed to be our number one, and you're playing like a bum.
Now you are meant to die here. It is completely expected that you die. Beating Urizen right now will actually trigger a secret ending that I once got. However, it is possible to beat him and to just continue with the game, so I will be counting this as a actual death because we should be able to beat him and it was a skill issue. After I get my cheeks clapped, Dante steps in for round 2, telling us that we should leave because we're dead weight, only for him to get punched so hard that my favorite weapon in the game, the Rebellion, breaks.
Better scramble like an egg before you get folded like an omelet, nigga.
Making our escape, we see Nero in a van 1 month later with our new companion, Nico. Nico will make all our upgrades and devil arms in the future, so she's very useful. Great as she might be, Nico is still a woman, meaning that she cannot drive for shit, which she is somehow able to turn into a cinematic masterpiece. Mission 1 is fairly easy because we just have to beat up some fodder enemies and then beat up a plant. I mean, have you ever tried to fight a plant? It's actually pretty damn easy. Especially if you succeed, because we have a damn fire sword. Pokemon taught as well. Now dear viewer, I have to be honest for a moment and put away the broadcasting voice, I guess. My footage got corrupted. Some missions were corrupted, so I'm gonna skip over this part fairly quickly. But all you need to know is that I started to use enemy step. Now, what is enemy step? A very important skill. I glossed over it because when I started this challenge, I didn't think I was gonna use it. But in 5, it was very clear I need to use enemy step, especially against bosses. Now what it actually allows you to do is it allows you to jump on enemies and then be able to do all your moves again in the air. Some of your moves like your double jump or Dante's Trickster can only be performed a certain times while mid-air. However, if you perform enemy step, that timer will reset. This will be somewhat important into the future as I haven't mastered enemy step just yet, but using it will become fairly important to get away from enemies or when we play Dante basically. Except from my footage getting corrupted, story-wise, Nero and V meet up and then immediately split up. Nero doing mission 3, but mission 4 is pretty much at the exact same time as mission 3, but from V's perspective. Now, if you know V, you know that he's a summoner, and you'll probably hate it. Most people hate V if you're familiar with DMC5. Personally, I don't dislike his gameplay. I think his gameplay is cool in theory, but compared to Dante and Nero, it isn't really all that. All you have to do is stand still, read a book, and let your summons do the fighting. We have Griffith, Shadow, and Nightmare, which are names that are totally not familiar from earlier in this video at all. Griffith being our ranged attacker, Shadow being our melee attacker, and Nightmare being our trump card, which is such a good shadow it will pretty much instantly annihilate every normal enemy. However, it works off of Devil Trigger, so instead of transforming like Nero and Dante, we'll get a busted Shadow. With this, we make our way to the game where we get to by far the worst boss ever, this land thingy that cannot even move, which gets very upset when we call it stupid. This boss fucking sucks because we first have to destroy these 3 tentacles and then attack the main body. But the main body is like, it has a weird hitbox and Shadow cannot really hit it. And Nightmare is on autopilot, so that doesn't work either. It just sucks. This boss sucks. And unfortunately I die because I wasn't able to kill him in time, causing me to revive and then killing him instantly. This will be a good point to announce that yes, I do allow myself to revive in DMC5 because we have no healing. However, if I get absolutely destroyed during a boss fight, like I'm not even close, I will reset because I think it's just the right thing to do. Finishing up this fight, the ground breaks and V falls through the sewers, where we now have to make our way out, where we eventually reach this construction site. Now I've already completed a fair share of secret missions, but now we're gonna tackle my first secret mission that I haven't found, which is to defeat all enemies without being injured. And thank God this mission is on V, because it's so much easier to just run around the arena and let Shadow do all the work. Oh my god, it was such a fucking easy quest with V. Some comboing and spamming taunts later, we make our way to the boss where we can get the call Nico, where she drives through the ground. Because why not? Fighting the boss, we see this massive bird thingy and this dude on a horse, which looks very familiar. Engaging in combat, we start by far my favorite V boss fight, where we pretty much have to fight this guy who's on a horse who can control time. And I won't lie, the music on this one, oh, it's such a banger, but just the whole vibe of the fight itself, it just looks so cool, man. I love this fight. Gushing aside, I beat the boss relatively easy, but because V is a little fanboy twink, his body gives out, allowing the demon to escape. Getting back to Nero, we have to fight against this massive demon where V ran away from earlier. I won't lie, this fight is pretty damn boring. This entire mission is this one fight, but you just have to get up on his back and then start beating this little sack thing, and there is barely any way he defends himself. I fall off sometimes, but you can just stay on his back and jump over every attack. until he's dead. Moving on to mission 7, this will be our first co-op mission, where we are allowed to actually pick a character. And because I let my stupid show, I decided to pick for V. Going through the tunnel as V, I make quick work of this enemy and then totally, like a gentleman, stalk the Nero player because I think it's funny and nothing else. Eventually being able to meet up and fight together. However, this wouldn't last long as unfortunately my Nero called Nico and then went into the void. Having to do the boss fight alone, I have to fight with an NPC Nero who is so fucking bad he just straight up dies. Having to end the fight alone. Successfully doing so, we jump off the stage that was just gliding down for some reason and find that this is V's hometown, telling us that he used to play here when he was a little boy. Nero, uninterested, moves on to fight Jurizen. Before Nero can face Jurizen again, we have to climb this massive fucking tree which has grown over the past month. Now, it really felt like mission 8 lasted forever. I don't know if it is the longest mission, but damn, it really felt like it. We really had to fight countless enemies to even get to the boss. However, this was definitely the turning point for my Nero gameplay, going from clunky and not really knowing what to do, yet knowing every single move, to seamlessly stringing combos together like it was nothing. After making it to the top, which felt like a damn eternity, we faced Jurizen again. And Nero has really grown, and it really made me proud to say that he was able to land a single blow. Yeah, we did not improve much, but Jurizen, absolutely pissed the fuck off, decided to lock in, standing up and showing his superiority by beating our ass again. And because you could beat him in this fight but then lose in the cutscene, I will count this as a death again. Now, right before Nero was about to be turned into a beef jerky, a mysterious demon comes to save the day. Going back 3 months earlier, we see how Dante got into the situation that he is now, with V telling him that the demon Jurizen has risen. Going back to the present day, we continue with V on a mission to retrieve the Devil Sword Sparta, in hopes of Nero using it to defeat Jurizen. Making our way through, we find this secret area where a purple orb fragment lies. Unlike the other games where you had to buy them all in the shop, you actually need to find 2 or 3 orbs on your own. And I only needed 2 more shards, so now we have 1 of 2 that I need to complete my Devil Trigger gauge. After this, we have to fight these nobodies. Get it? And then successfully retrieve the Devil Sword Sparta. Trying to pick it up, we realize that we truly are a twink femboy and give up. However, our lovely shadow finds Dante, unconscious but alive in the ruins. V, thinking it's unfair that Dante still looks so damn handsome in his 40s, tries to end the game right here, right now. However, this is the biggest psych moment ever, as he knew that there was no other way to wake Dante up from his beauty nap. After we get him up to speed, we see Dante and the girls right before they're about to confront the Jurizen for the first time, as we saw in the prologue, allowing us to finally play with DMC5 Dante. The reason why I'm so hyped to play with DMC5 Dante is because unlike DMC4 Dante, his weapons doesn't fucking suck. This arsenal by far being Dante's best and most goated arsenal of all the games. These weapons are a lot, and I will not get into them right now, and instead will slowly introduce them as we get them in the story. For now, all you need to know, and for those who are familiar, this is my loadout moving forward. Blame me in the comments, I like this loadout, okay? For now, however, I make my way to Jurizen, having an absolute blast, as this is truly where all those hours of Devil May Cry 3 and 4 truly come together. As in 3, I was able to master the swordsman style, and in 4, I mostly used style switching in general, meaning that my base Dante moves were pretty solid and was absolutely paying off in Devil May Cry 5 Dante. Before making it to our ultimate goal Jurizen, we have to fight the Nilo Quintuplets. However, these dudes put me on, I don't even know how many HP that is, but not enough to beat Jurizen, resulting in another death. Mission 11 is by far my favorite mission in this entire game. Making my way through these enemies and giving the Americans a heart attack twice, we get to proceed to the best boss in the entire game, Cavalier. This fight is just a sheer 1v1 test of skill, and true masters of the game can absolutely parry every single one of his attacks and master this fight. Although I was doing fairly well, which you don't see in this footage because this is re-recorded because it got corrupted, I do die once, so we just add it to the count and move on. Gawking over this boss aside, again, we slice it up into 1,000 pieces, which not only spawns Trish, but also spawns a motorcycle. This motorcycle is not random, but is in fact a weapon, and we will use it as such to the fullest. This is one of Dante's slower weapons, but because it's slow, it doesn't mean that it isn't useful. This weapon is a weapon I mostly use in the air to do air combos with, as it allows you to stun the enemy in place while using it. Moving on, we have to solve a little bit of a puzzle by making the blood flow to the statue for us to move on, which is very convenient because it leads us to our childhood home. Dante, realizing he hasn't been in build yet, decides to pay that tax now, which results in him fusing with the Devil Sword Sparta and the Rebellion to unlock Sin Devil Trigger and fly to the top of the tree instantly. And now it has come full circle. Dante, being the mysterious demon, because who would have guessed, now confronts Urizen in a 1v1. Using Sin Devil Trigger to easily break the crystal, we immediately go on the offense and it looks like I'm winning. But then he summons us again. Yes, I have to break it again, and this time I don't have Devil Trigger on my side, so this costs me significant health. However, I thought I was in the green. I thought I was good. And now I am finally going to beat him. And he summoned it again. Like, oh my god. Why the fuck does he summon this thing so many times? It's unfair. Resulting in a death. Reviving because I don't want to do all of this shit again. We beat his ass, but unfortunately for us, the clock hits 12 o'clock. And that means that the tree is done. The fruit is ready to harvest. And Urizen leaves. Dante, coming back to see that everybody is very demoralized because we didn't finish the job, tries to lift everybody's spirits by doing some sick dance moves. Our three heroes all together in one place are finally able to join forces and beat Urizen together, only for them to immediately split up. Picking Dante because I'm not an idiot, we have some multiplayer fun and then reconvene with Nero and V, only for the floor to break and us to split up again. Going into mission 14, we play as V, but we get captured and our shadows get taken away from us, having to defeat different bosses with a limited amount of shadows to get them back. We also pick up this blue orb after some intense jumping. We beat the two remaining bosses and then be on our happy way. However, we do get this secret mission and then we encounter the bird woman once again. Knowing that we could never beat her, we try to get away Solid Snake style, but we get spotted. Fortunately for us, Nero is here to save the day. Before we get into Nero's mission, I go back to the main menu and beat two secret missions back to back really quick with Dante. After this, we do start up Nero's mission, which is an absolute breeze, including the boss. Because although this boss is very fun, she is very easy. Most of her attacks not even connecting, as they can just be dodged by moving around. This isn't the end of this mission, because in this mission, the last secret mission and blue orb fragment I need for maximum HP are hidden. And after going through it 3 separate times, I finally found the parkour I needed to do, but instead of actually doing it, I just used a cheap method to blow myself up to the top, getting that last fragment that I need, and then completing that last secret mission that I need. Finally obtaining maximum HP. Finally being able to return to Dante, I prepared myself to immensely lock in as from this point forward, it would pretty much be a boss rush. That's right, after the boss of this level and the next few levels, we pretty much only fight bosses back to back to back, meaning that we have to be absolutely locked in. Before that, however, I clear this mission in a very specific way to get the final purple orb I need to complete my devil trigger gauge, something I would definitely need. Going down, I unfortunately died through these standard enemies because I got hunted down by this annoying speedster enemy that I forgot the name of. Going down, we face the final boss, which should look very familiar to us all, as it's pretty much the upgraded version from the boss from Devil May Cry 3. What do I mean by upgraded? Well, instead of only having ice, this dog also has electricity and fire, truly making it one of the best bosses in the game. Its fire mode being a melee mode that goes up close to bite us to death, its electric mode being a ranged mode, and its ice mode being this barrier mode that constantly spams attacks, but he stands in the middle, so he's a very easy target. I also used the funny Michael Jackson hat from earlier because it was not just for show, but it was actually our final ranged weapon, Dr. Faust. And although I didn't use its terrifying power, I did use it to get a little bit more extra damage during combos. After putting the puppy to rest, we get one of my personal favorite weapons, Balrog. And what makes it truly better than the DMC3 version is that we have the normal ice nunchucks that we all know and love, but we also have lightning nunchucks ranged attacks and also a fire polearm that we can use for awesome combos. This can also be used with my new and improved sword, the Devil Sword Dante, which I forgot to mention earlier. But if you hold the weapon attack button down with Balrog, you can switch to the Devil Sword Dante and use the style button to use its summon sword right alongside the electric attack you just charged up, making it so you can effectively use two weapons all at once. After we jump into your mom's hole, we see Urizen standing by this smaller tree now, where he eats this demon apple to keep away every single doctor ever. After doing this, he transforms into his third and final form, where he becomes one of the best bosses in the entire game, and I mean it this time. However, even if he's a good boss fight, unfortunately I don't last long, as I'm barely able to get over half of his HP, causing me to reset and try again. On my second attempt, I figured out that staying on one weapon and style switching works way better, for me at the very least, to take down this boss. Using that, I'm able to make it pretty far, but I got caught off guard and died again. Not giving up, I revived myself and put Urizen down once and for all, which might be a bigger mistake than I could have ever imagined. Dante, wanting to finish this, tells Nero and V to stand back. However, he gets stopped by V because V wants to be the one to take him down. However, he reveals that Urizen and V are two sides of the same coin, and that coin need both its sides back. Standing in front of Virgil, Nero feels his aura, but Dante unfazed charges in. However, Virgil tells him that there is no point in meeting him now, because we are weakened from all our battles previously. So he kicks his ass and tells him to get some rest, and that they will settle the score later. After thanking Nero and portaling out of there, Nero asks what is up with that guy, and Dante brings him the news that Virgil is Nero's dad. I know, I never saw it coming. It was totally not obvious at all, and it was such a massive reveal that no one saw coming at all. Going back to the entire top of the tree off screen, fortunately for us, we get our second rocket launcher, which our first one we got in Mission 11, and now canonically own the dual KN. And just in time, because we'll be needing it to fight V's squad, as his demons are now not bound by V anymore, and are going to kill Dante. Now this isn't exactly a boss fight, it's more like we slowly fight the whole squad one by one until we have to fight them all at the same time. Starting with Griffith, I actually had a bit of trouble going into this fight. It wasn't exactly easy. However, I found out that the dual rocket launcher worked exceptionally well for him, so it truly saved my ass. A little bit later we fight Griffith and Shadow at the same time, but again, the rocket launcher came in clutch and absolutely annihilated the both of them. You would think third time is the charm, but it isn't. We have to fight Shadow and Griffith again, and this time it doesn't really go as well, leaving my HP at a dangerously low level. And to probably no one's surprise, when Nightmare got mixed into it, I died. However, this was only once, as I just decided to revive because I barely did any damage anyway. I was able to beat them fairly easily. I will say I had my fair share of troubles because I didn't know Nightmare could just heal. However, I accidentally or luckily shoot both Shadow and Griffith down at the same time, which causes Nightmare to heal them, draining its own HP considerably. After this, I beat up Nightmare a few more times and shoot him down with the rocket launcher just for good measure. Saying my farewell to my DMC-1 squad, we make our way to confront Virgil. Dante tells Virgil that he shouldn't be a deadbeat and give Nero his rightful child support. However, Virgil doesn't give anything, he only gets, and after all these years, he has not gotten a birthday present. Dante, thinking that Virgil is joking, tries to reason with him. However, Virgil is no joke. Not coming to an agreement, they decide to settle things with a good old sibling fight to the death. Now dear viewer, this is by far the best boss fight in Devil May Cry 5, and I actually mean it this time. Virgil is such a complex but good boss, getting harder the further you progress. Initially starting off relatively easy, ramping up the difficulty more and more. And I won't lie, in my first attempt, I immediately died. I got my shit whooped. However, on my second attempt, I was able to figure out a lot more mechanics that kept me alive for way longer. For example, I was able to break Virgil's summoned swords attacks by using my own summoned swords as a counter. I was also able to just dodge Virgil's attack way better and also parrying him way more often using Royal Guard. Not really using my Devil Trigger unless it was absolutely necessary. However, even with all of this, I still die. But on my third attempt, I was actually able to do some mad damage to Virgil, blocking most of his flying charge attack with Royal Guard and then getting him by using a cheeky Royal Revenge. However, this was still not enough, as in the final phase, he summons his doppelganger. And this is fucking hard. I could pretty much do nothing but run away, and still to this day, I don't really know how you are supposed to be able to take down the doppelganger in a fast and efficient way as Dante. So unfortunately, I died again. Allowing myself a cheeky revive, I was able to get off one good combo on Virgil and then simply shoot him down with a combination of my shotgun and my summoned swords that can track the enemy. However, still after all of this pain and suffering, we end up stalemating, truly showing why he is one of the best characters in fictional history. Trying to end the rivalry once and for all, we both go for the kill shot. However, we get stopped by Nero, now in his full Devil Trigger form, regenerating his arm and unlocking his true Devil Bringer powers. Now, I will not lie, dear viewer, I forgot on what difficulty I was playing on. I really wanted the dialogue to match the cutscene and the music, but you only get that the first time you play this mission. Thus, I die. But thinking I can do it with one revive, I immediately get proven wrong and die again.
This nigga is trash.
Therefore, just deciding to restart because I felt so ashamed. On my third attempt from the beginning, I'm able to beat him in one fell swoop as I realized that Virgil in this state will not go out of Sin Devil Trigger, so there's no point in even waiting for him. Beating him up with Nero and finally ending the game on a whopping 15 deaths. After we defeat Virgil and tell him that his birthday present can wait, we find out that the demon tree is not done, because it is about to destroy the whole world. Dante and Virgil decide to make the ultimate sacrifice by going into the demon world and cutting up the tree from the roots, effectively making them stuck there for all eternity. Nero is trying to stop them, but Dante tells him that he trusts him on this side and is only allowed to go because Nero is here, truly passing on the torch to the next generation. Virgil says his final goodbye to his son and leaves him with the book V used to read. And only a few hours later, we see Nero and Nico going back after they pretty much just saved the entire world. With these final scenes, I can finally say that I beat every single Devil May Cry on Son of Sparta difficulty, truly becoming a Son of Sparta myself. Completing missions, fighting bosses and trying to be stylish has taught me one very important thing: that this experience was so painful, even a devil may cry.